and gentlemen, welcome to another Chokeslam debate. I am, of course, your host, Matty G, coming at you live from Isolation Station 1123. This is the Chokeslam debate. We have two debuting players tonight. We have Papa West taking on JB3. So let's get these two gentlemen into the squared circle and have a little conversation with. Good evening, Papa West. Welcome to the squared circle. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good. I'm rocking a new shirt. Papa, the man, the myth, the legend. So as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I have to get that. And I have to wear it for a debate at some point. But now I am good. I'm glad to finally debut in Chokeslam. Because I don't love wrestling, but I like it. I'm starting to get back into it. And I like yelling at people. So it was just a perfect match. What was that? I mean,
you do use my WWE network. You do use my WWE network, so let's be real on that. I mean,
and I love you so much.
But all right, brother. Good evening, Mr. JB3. How the hell are you?
I'm doing all right, my bro. I'm here. I usually judge. It is kind of crazy. It's my debut in Chokeslam. It's my debut in any kind of debate match ever. I mean, obviously, I talk a lot of wrestling, Suplex City chats. I'm very used to talking about wrestling. It's going to be interesting. I don't know what to expect, but I'm excited and I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, good luck to you, sir. I'm going to drop you back to the back. And I'm going to bring in our judges and have a little conversation with them. We have Mr. Carefree himself, Richard Schwartz. We have Andrea stepping back into the debate league. And the Raptor Master himself, Jonathan Peck. Good evening, guys. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great.
Good.
Very well.
Yep. I'm looking forward to this.
To all of you, if you understood that reference, awesome. If not, well, you are in the wrong league.
This will be a good match. I have no expectations, just like WWE, but the difference is I expect good things from this match.
I expect these two to lay the smackdown on each other.
Yeah, I absolutely.
It might be sort of more interesting than a regular NXT.
But you didn't finish the line. What? All right, guys. This is how it works. You are going to each have a 90-second opening, a 5-minute freeform debate. Let's keep it above the belt. If I see low blows, I will call timeout. And by that, I mean if you guys start talking over each other, I will call for a timeout and send you to your corners. We're all friends here. Let's keep it that way. You also have, I don't know what they call it here. You have an extra minute you can use to either your opening or your closing. All you got to do is go, Matty G, I want to use that before you start talking. I will add the time to it, and you go from there. In your freeform debate, at 1 minute, I will bring up said banner. So you'll know you'll have 1 minute left on the clock. And then I will come back in at about 5 seconds left. I'll give you a countdown to stop you. Gentlemen, any questions? First to 3 points wins. All righty.
Let's go.
Guys.
Let's do this.
All righty. So question number 1 comes in the realm of WrestleMania. And the question is, which opening match at WrestleMania should have main evented? Again, which opening match at WrestleMania should have main evented? I will drop out. And JB3, this is your strength. So you will have 90 seconds on the clock once you start talking.
So when you think of the question, the opening match and what should have been the main event for a WrestleMania, you got to think of what could have, because there's not many. You might have two, but there's a guaranteed one, and it's a logical one. And the answer is WrestleMania 35. It's Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. Now, first off, it's a title match. If you're at WrestleMania and you're going to be in the main event, sometimes it's not a title match, but most of the time it's a main title match, and it was a Universal title match. Another thing is that they wrestled at WrestleMania before in the main event. It was the triple threat. When Seth Money in the Bank cashed in, and when he did that, he main evented. It showed that they have what it takes to main event. With 30 seconds left, because I clock myself, I could talk a lot about like how and why the Universal Championship could have, but we want to know why it should have, and why the main event that did exist should not. Now, it was a women's match. It was the triple threat. It was Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch. Now, by any means, women can main event WrestleMania. It's going to happen year after year after year after year after year. But WrestleMania 35, it should not have happened. And when I get into the debate part of it, I will tell you why.
Time. Alrighty, so we got WrestleMania 35. Pablo, I'm going to hop out 90 seconds when you start talking.
So JB3 said something fantastic. Whenever you highlight WrestleMania, it does not have to be a title match, which is exactly why I picked the match that I picked. I'm taking us back to 2005, WrestleMania 21. WrestleMania Goes Hollywood is what they called it, because it was in LA, which is also Hollywood. Makes sense. Eddie Guerrero took on Rey Mysterio to open up WrestleMania. It was a fantastic fight between the two of them. This is the first time ever we had a tag team go against each other one-on-one, and it sparked an amazing feud. Some interesting matches later on down the road. Looking at you, SummerSlam. Winner gets custody of Dominic. So an interesting stipulation. Not the most interesting stipulation I've ever seen. Eye for an eye. I'm looking at you. But it was a great match. Two wrestlers who knew so much about each other. They've been wrestling with each other for years, who put on a show. The entire time it was back and forth. You had Rey Mysterio getting the 619 twice, missing it. Eddie Guerrero was able to get out of the ropes right before Rey Mysterio landed it, and then finally getting the second one. And that still didn't even end the match. Eddie Guerrero getting the three amigos on him. It was back and forth. It was thrilling.
All right, gentlemen, 5 minutes. Let's keep it above the belt. 5 minutes when somebody starts talking.
So yes, JB3, I really want to hear why you are taking three of the hottest names in WWE entertainment, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch, why you're taking that triple threat out of the main event.
I'll tell you why. I don't know if you were there watching it at the time, but I was. And the original match was supposed to be Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey. Charlotte Flair politicked her way into it, and no one liked it. There's other reasons, too. Maybe because at the end, Ronda botched the pin, and she put her shoulder up, and it made it just look horrible. The match was good itself, but with Charlotte hogging the spotlight and getting into the main event, and then with Becky Lynch not being able to get a rightful pin on Ronda disrespected the business after that. She left, and then she sat there and shit on every single one of them. Excuse my language. So that's why.
Yeah. So it didn't have the greatest ending. It's a little bit controversial. The match itself was amazing. The three of them, the build up to the match. Like I remember Collider Live. That's how far back ago it was. They talked about whenever they had the three women on Raw, and you had Ronda Rousey sticking her head out of the window, and then Becky Lynch just kicked her head right into the window. There was a lot of great buildup, And the thing with your match, the Brock Lesnar Seth Rollins, that match worked for what it was. You had Brock Lesnar beating the crap out of Seth Rollins before the match even started to get an advantage. Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman pretty much saying how they're upset that this wasn't a main event, and so they're going to literally leave as soon as that match is done. That match worked for what it was, and then the main event was amazing on its own too, and I don't want to change that.
Look, Brock Lesnar and Seth Rollins could have had that same match at the main event, and that triple threat would have been just like it was without it. And the women are going to main event. But listen to this. Are you really going to tell me that you're going to have Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, who's faced each other plenty of times, and yes, it was a good match. It clocked in at 12 minutes and 39 seconds. But you're going to have the main event over Triple H and Batista, the big crowning moment for Batista after the big, long story that he told to Triple H? It was months of storytelling for that. And then if you're not going to have that, there's so many other matches that could have main evented over what you're talking about. Let's see, Cena versus JBL, Cena's crowning moment. How about the Money in the Bank, the very first Money in the Bank ladder match, mind you? And look, Eddie's great, Ray is great, okay? And they were the tag team champions when they faced each other. And you were wrong when you said that the tags never faced each other before. It's happened plenty of times. It's
the first time in WrestleMania.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, but I'm telling you, there's no way you can have them go over any of those three matches that I suggested.
You 100% can, because here's the deal. Yes, John Cena beating JBL and then Batista beating Triple H were one of their crowning achievements, their first time winning the belt. That it wasn't their crowning achievement because it was at WrestleMania, or with Batista, it was the main event of WrestleMania. They was their crowning achievement because it was their first championship. You know, the magic of Cena, that was in the middle of the pay-per-view. You could have the same exact magic with Batista in the middle, in the beginning of the show. And
it was the co-main event.
It was still kind of in the middle of the show, though. It wasn't.
It was second to last.
Main event.
It was second to last.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't able to watch the entire thing.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I apologize for cutting you off like that. I really don't
want
to do that. But I do have to say, you know, you're talking about a story. I got 2 points for you real quick. I got a story for you. You could tell the bigger story was with Triple H and Batista. It was a mid-card feud with Ray and Eddie, and they were tag champions. So were they even feuding? Later on, they had greater feuds, but there it just was not there. And here's the other point. WrestleMania, the main event, the reason it's there is to make money. There would have been no way that Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero being main event would have made more than Triple H and Batista with that story that they were telling. I'm sorry, there's just no way.
It definitely could have made money because Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, both tag team champions, a lot of people's favorite wrestlers, those two right there. You also bring in the Latin America audience. These are two Latin Americans fighting in the main event of the Super Bowl of WWE. And storytelling, this was the start of the Eddie Guerrero Rey Mysterio Civil War.
You don't start a feud at WrestleMania. You don't start a feud at WrestleMania. I'm sorry.
Not?
That's not where you start a feud. Because that's where you end a feud. It's WrestleMania.
And let's have people look forward to the next season of wrestling.
JB3, this was your strength. So Papa West, you're going to close first 1 minute when you start talking.
So again, yes, you normally do not start feuds at WrestleMania. Guess what? Let's do something different. Let's get people excited for the next couple months after WrestleMania. Because guess what? WWE is a year-long sport. You don't want people excited at the very end of the year and at the very beginning of the year. You want people excited throughout the year. Let's do something different. Let's start a storyline that starts at WrestleMania and then works all the way through the rest of the year. And then with your fight, that was perfect for what it was. If it's a main event, Brock Lesnar's not going to beat the crap out of Seth Rollins before the fight. He's not going to go on the huge rant he did. And then the glory of Seth Rollins winning it after getting his ass handed to him before the match doesn't happen. Plus, you're taking away the first time ever women have headlined WrestleMania. You're taking that away. Yes, I understand it was a controversial ending. It was a fantastic match, though. And look at what happened for the next 365 days. With Becky Lynch just owning the women's division. You lose that if that's not happening.
All right, JB3.
Look, you're not going to lose it. Becky Lynch is going to be over if she was over, and the women are going to main event plenty of times. But I'm telling you, just like I said, you cannot have Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero at that time main event a pay-per-view that was Triple H and Batista. It would have been a travesty. We would have been talking about it right now. It would have been a completely different question. That, you know, Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar, Universal Championship, saying that it wouldn't be this type of match, you don't know that. It could have been the same match. It could have been a different match, but it could have legitimately main evented at WrestleMania by Brock Lesnar, the big name. He could have main evented any WrestleMania. Eddie Guerrero had his WrestleMania moment. Ray would go on to have his WrestleMania moment, but WrestleMania 21 was not that time. Not the time for Ray, not the time for Eddie. It was the time for Batista. And he got his big crowning moment as he lifted the World Heavyweight Championship in the air with fireworks at the end of WrestleMania. And that's how you end a big WrestleMania, not the other way around.
And time. Woof. Good match. I'm glad I'm not ruling on this one because this was kind of hard. Judges, when you get your thoughts together and kind of got who you're going with, give me a thumbs up. I like both of these answers, but if we're going to go to be in, I'm going to give my opinion after the judges roll. All right, Mr. Raptor Master, who gets your point and why?
Two very good arguments and two great selections, both of the competitors. The person for me that swayed me during the arguments and his reason why his match could have been the main event is Jacobs with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, because he pointed out some of the things that he pointed out in the argument, the why is more worthy to main event around that WrestleMania around that time. And, well, his little counters to JB3 of why his match should have not been the main event, and he put some things right here that bring out some more clear examples that JB3's match should have matched that he picked and that been the main event. So, in the end of the day, I'm gonna pick Jacob right here. He gets a point in my eyes.
All right, Mr. Carefree, how about you?
This was tough, but my point is also going to Jacob. And what Jonathan said, but also the fact that I felt JB3 didn't give enough examples of other than why the women's should have main event. All I heard from really JB3 was the controversial ending. Like, that was the worst thing. And I heard more about why Eddie and Ray should have main evented than the other match. And and also from JB3, I didn't hear enough about the Seth Brock match and why that match should have main evented instead of that. So my point also is going to go to Jacob.
All right, so Jacob draws first blood. Miss Andrea, who would have taken your point?
Okay, in this case, my point would have gone to JB3 because I thought that his argument with regard to main event for that particular year was actually a crowning moment for somebody that hasn't really won a title yet. So if I were to take that away and put the Eddie versus Ray match in, it would have taken maybe a little bit of the luster which JB3 has stated in his argument. So I would have given the point to JB3 in this instance.
I agree. I would have too. In my opinion, if we were going to see a WrestleMania moment with them, the ladder match between them over the custody of Dominic or maybe his eye would be better. But that's okay.
Also, not WrestleMania pay-per-views, so.
I don't care. It could have still headlined. I don't care. All right, guys. Let's move on, shall we? All right. So with Jacob taking first blood, that's okay. We're going to move into round 2, which is in Papa's strength himself of NXT. And the question is, which NXT superstar should have never been called up to the main roster? All right, Papa, this is your strength, so you will have 90 seconds. Oh, hold on, now my clock's on. You will have 90 seconds on the clock when you start talking.
All right. So the person that I picked on who should never have been pulled up to the main roster is a little bit of an interesting pick. The person I picked, he's had some success on the main roster, not a ton. He has been the WW or the USA Championship, or been the USA Champion, but that's really about it. He's never been able to like stand on his own. He's always been a part of a team. He's never been a threat. And really, frankly, when I think about him, I can only think of when he was facing against Brock Lesnar at the Super Showdown for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, and literally Brock Lesnar spent 3 minutes suplexing him, throwing him all over the place, literally having his way with him. The person that I picked is Ricochet. He really hasn't had that time to shine on his own. We've heard him be called the new Rey Mysterio, and he's done nothing to earn that, except for, hey, he can do cool flips. You can do cool flips on NXT. His talents there would be great. Having a feud probably with Adam Cole, or even getting into the Cruiserweight Championship, but not on the main roster. Bye-bye, Ricochet.
Time. All right, Mr. JB3, 90 seconds when you start talking.
So this question is loaded with answers. There's so many superstars that you could pick that should not have went to the main roster and should have stayed in NXT. And there's quite a clear pattern with the way it goes about. So my pick was not a superstar like Ricochet. My pick was a superstar that had a ton of success in NXT, ruled NXT, and then came to the main roster and got buried. And I picked Shayna Basler. Shayna Basler was a beast in NXT. She did more than Asuka with the women's championship, and that's saying a lot. Now, Asuka had the undefeated reign, yes. Shayna she had the consecutive, like, with all her reigns. I believe it might have been close or even more. I didn't look that part up. But there was so many feuds for her to have in NXT, and she had so many good feuds back in NXT. She should have just stayed in NXT. I mean, she still could have continued to feud with Rhea Ripley. That didn't really end. I mean, it did, but it could have went longer. She could have feuded with Candice LeRae. She could have feuded with all the new ones that came up. She could have feuded with tons of them. But no, she went to the main roster, and she bit Becky Lynch in the back of the leg, and then she got kicked in the head at the Money in the Bank, and then she disappeared because Vince didn't like her anymore. And that's what Vince McMahon does to everybody, but there's a big pattern I'll talk about more.
Time. And all right, gentlemen, Shayna Basler and Ricochet, 5 minutes. Fight it out.
So actually, JB3, this was the perfect time for Shayna to leave NXT. She had just lost the Women's Championship, just lost War Games to Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley had her number, and this was perfect to have her lose it, kind of lose confidence, and then she popped up in the Royal Rumble, which was great. She went on to Elimination Chamber, which the most dominant performance in any kind of match. She tapped out every other competitor in a matter of minutes. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Yes, she hasn't had the greatest success in WWE because she hasn't been written in a lot of stuff, but that's about to change. We've seen her in the past recent episodes. Like, she is a threat. She is a dominant force. And really, I think the main reason we haven't been seeing her a lot is because her only challenge was Becky Lynch, who ended up getting pregnant and had to step away.
Look, that's fine and everything, and Becky Lynch, and what you said is true. It's facts. She did those things, and then she got buried, and it was a lot because Vince McMahon just didn't like her anymore. She was supposed to be the one to take the championship from Becky Lynch, but Vince McMahon changed his mind at the last time. That's what was reported, at least. But dude, look, Ricochet, it's almost a good choice, okay? But Ricochet had a very medium success in NXT, and he had a medium success a little bit. It's debatable, but he had a medium success in WWE as well. That's a pattern. Anyone who has had success, super success in WWE has got buried. Finn Balor, buried. So many others buried. But Ricochet has had a lot of things in WWE. He's happy in WWE. They did a 365 special for him, and they've only done that to 4 other people. And he even said on the 365 special that he loves being there. He loves the fact that he got to go against Brock Lesnar. And even though he got buried, yeah, I hated it as a fan. Yeah, he did, but he loves it there. He is happy there. Shayna Basler, dude, she's gonna get looked at. She's gonna be on main event because Vince don't like that type. He always hates that type. Why do you think Ronda Rousey left? Because she hates him. Because she hates wrestling fans. Because look, she could probably find success, but no.
I mean, I'm not going to say Shayna Baszler is not going to have any success because Vince McMahon doesn't like that. Vince McMahon has proven that he learns from things, and he's kind of taking a little bit of a step away from creative decisions and letting other people take step in there a little bit. But,
never.
and if you look at Shayna Baszler in NXT, like she was dominant and fans loved her. They loved to hate her, and it would work perfectly in WWE. Yes, the timing right now is horrible because fans aren't able to be there and because Becky Lynch is out right now, but she's in the process of coming back, and I can guarantee Asuka is going to beat Sasha Banks next week, or it already happened by the time of this recording. Shayna Baszler is going to be right there to put her in the Kahuna Clutch, and it's going to be a Shayna Baszler versus Asuka for that Raw Championship.
Well, Sasha kind of won that match and took the belt. And they're still doing that story. And Shayna is there, but she was choking out ninjas and stuff like that. She's just now getting back, but she got buried, and she would have been treated so much better in NXT. Ricochet, he was treated the same. He's just on a gradual rise. Years from now, he's going to be fine.
He was on a huge downfall. Literally, he was chosen by Hulk Hogan, I think, in Crown Jewel to be on his team. He was a champion. He was built up a little bit, didn't have the greatest success, faced Brock Lesnar for the WWE Championship, and is now tag teaming with Cedric Alexander, where Cedric Alexander is the highlight of that team. He is bringing in Mustafa Ali from being gone for a while. He's not the highlight of anything anymore. So he's not on a rise. He's on a fall. And Shayna has a very good future in WWE. I can see what Shayna's going to do. Ricochet, he's going to be a mid-card person for the rest of his career, probably.
Well, and you also got to consider the fact that Shayna, I mean, dude, okay, well, it's time, but Shayna is not going to do well.
Time. All right, so this was Papa's Strength, which means Mr. JB3 is going to go first. Sir, you got 1 minute on the clock when you start talking.
Look, Ricochet is going to be fine, okay? Look at the 365 special. He loves the main roster. He loves it there. This has been his dream since he was a kid. They did, and the fact that they did that, it's crazy. And like you said before, yeah, he won the United States title. That's something. And yeah, downfall right now, but he's not as far on a downfall as Shayna Basler is. Shayna Basler, dude, like she got absolutely buried in the Money in the Bank match, made her look stupid. And then after everything that happened, like everything that you said about her destroying people at the Elimination Chamber and all that stuff, like that just makes it look worse that she got buried and she lost to Becky. And then Becky, it just made it all bad for her. I mean, she should have stayed in NXT. She should have never came up. And it's not who's going to have a future, by the way. It's who should have never came up. And she should have never came up. Ricochet's fine.
Time. All right, Mr. Papa. 1 minute. Close out this round.
spoiler alert, Ricochet is not fine. And again, now is the perfect time for Shayna to come to the main roster. And then out of kayfabe stuff happened to really make it a bad time. But really, Shayna Basler is still like was choking out ninjas. Hilarious. She was watching Kairi Sane and Bailey, and whenever the I can't remember her name, I think it was Charlie, was asking about it, she pretty much said, "Man, I cannot wait to take everyone out because she is a threat." She didn't really get buried. She just got pushed to the side for not even a month. And again, she did lose at WrestleMania. It's something that happened in NXT before. She had Kairi Sane in her chokehold. Kairi Sane was able to pin her, and they did a great feud after that. They're going to do the same thing with Becky Lynch. They shouldn't have.
Time. But I will wait till our judges get their thoughts in order. All right, Mr. Carefree, who gets the point?
My point is going to JB3 for the main reason where JB3 brought up that even on NXT, Ricochet was a mid card, and he still is a mid card. He didn't have the great success in NXT, and he's not having the great success in WWE, so he's bounced out. Whereas Shayna Basler was so freaking dominant in NXT, and Shayna Basler has been so buried. And the problem with Jacob was most of his arguments were opinion based, in my opinion. Like he can't just say he doesn't know for sure that Vince doesn't like Shayna Basler. And I heard more information why Ricochet is, still happy being as a mid card, not complaining. Whereas Shayna Basler being as dominant as she was in NXT, being kind of buried, I got to give my point to JB3.
All right. JB3 gets the first part judge point. Miss Andre, how about you? Who gets your point?
The person who gets my point is also JB3 because of the fact that one, as what my fellow judges said, Ricochet he had medium success in NXT, and he also had medium success in the WWE, which Jacob really wasn't able to counter in saying what made Ricochet very special in NXT versus how he is in the WWE product itself. And also because of the fact that JB3 stated that Ricochet was happy as a mid card in WWE, and who should we be if he's happy in that particular if he's happy in WWE, why should we force him back to NXT? So I'm gonna give my point to JB3.
All right, Jonathan, real quick, who would have gotten your point?
It would have been a sort of a clean sweep. My point would have gone to JB3. Same thing as both of you. Same thing as that both of you just said. Ricochet is sort of mid-carder at best with NXT and WWE. Same thing right here. Shawn, sorry, a little stuck right here. Shawn just got buried when she got to WWE, and basically she never recovered from that. So my point would have gone to JB3 also.
All right, so JB3 draws second blood. Oh, I can't believe JB3 didn't bring up the fact that Shayna got knocked down to main event. Just putting that out there.
I'm upset at myself for not remembering about Austin Theory until after we gave our answers.
All right.
Ooh, it probably would have been a good thing that you didn't pick Austin Theory, though, because...
It's definitely a no for me, dog.
That's a big yikes, dog. All right, yes. Jumping back in real quick. 5, 3, 2, 1. So with that, JB3 gets the second point. All right, so we're going to move back to Mr. 3's strength of AEW. Speaking of 3, and people with 2 letters into the number 3, with EC3 hinting at a possible AEW move, who should he feud with first? All right, JB3, this is your strength. I will hop out. You got 90 seconds when you start talking.
So, EC3 going into AEW, who should he feud with? There's a few key points that you want to pay attention to if you're going to bring someone like EC3 in. First off, he's been creating a ton of buzz with his new character ever since he got released. Another thing is that he aligned himself with FTR also with one of those videos. That's a very important point because the person that I picked that he would feud with is Kenny Omega. It's the writing's on the wall. The seeds have already been planted actually for the Omega feud. It's a great story to tell. You could tell it with FTR, the Young Bucks, Paige, and even Cody could get in, but he probably wouldn't. It could lead to a faction. It could lead to a war with the Elite. It could lead to a lot of things, heel turns. It could lead to so many different things. And EC3's character is absolutely 100% white hot right now. The whole wrestling world is talking about it. Out of the things that's happened in real life in wrestling, well, in kayfabe, but everyone's happy. Everyone loves EC3, and he is super hot, and he needs a big story, and he needs a big name. And it's a perfect fit. It's like a puzzle piece fitting right into the puzzle if he feuded with Kenny Omega, because you got, like I said, FTR, Young Bucks, Paige. It'd be a whole story, and it could be long term. There's no other choice in my mind of who they could put him in a feud with but Kenny Omega.
Time. All right, Papa. 90 seconds when you start talking.
I'm going to go ahead and add my extra minute, please, Matt.
2.5 minutes when you start talking.
So you're kind of right, JB3. There's no bigger name in AEW right now than the Dark Order. Pretty much, they're trying to get Colt Cabana to join them, and there's been some hinting towards that Colt's gonna join them. This last fight at Fyter Fest, I definitely kind of see Colt Cabana was injured. And Brody Lee still made him fight, still made him compete. And I could definitely see that turning into a Colt Cabana not joining the Dark Order. I can't really say leaving because he hasn't really joined yet. And what would be amazing to see is just a scene with Colt Cabana and Brody Lee talking. Brody Lee's trying to get him to fully join the Dark Order. And Colt keeps like, yeah, I don't know. And Brody Lee just stands up. He's like, I don't have time for this. I need someone who's dedicated. I guess I'm just going to have to sick him on you. Turns out, and out pops EC3, standing right behind Colt Cabana, and just attacks him. I'm pitching EC3 as the new hitman for the Dark Order, the newest member, the killer, pretty much anyone who's on the Dark Order's hit list, EC3 destroys. It's perfect with Colt Cabana because we've seen the kind of feuding going on there. It makes perfect sense storyline to make Colt Cabana pay for not joining the Dark Order. And then it would make sense for later down the road, different storylines to come. So I want to see EC3 taking on Colt Cabana. Time, Matt.
All righty. You still had 30 seconds left on the clock. All right, gentlemen. 5 minutes. Fight it out. Keep it above the belt.
All right. Look, first off, the Dark Order is not the biggest name in AEW. Brody Lee lost to Moxley and went to be a comedy act on Being the Elite. And Colt Cabana, yes, he's doing a little feud and he's doing stuff for the Dark Order, but it's happening on Dark, man. It's not even that big of a deal. And I get it. Your pitch,
happening on Dynamite.
I mean, it's just now probably starting to bleed to Dynamites, but I'm talking it's been going on Dark. It's not that big of a story. Now, you're talking about what Dynamite has been revolving around. It's been revolving around Hangman Page and Kenny Omega as the tag team champions, and then FTR coming in and the Young Bucks and that whole deal. Like I said, it fits like a piece of a puzzle. There's been no seeds planted at all for any kind of Colt Cabana story but just fantasy booking, which is what you were just doing. But my seeds have already happened. They're already been placed. He could just go in there and be a part of the story.
But here's the thing. With tag team, it's 2-on-2. You're really not going to get EC3 to come in with FTR and then randomly magically get a feud. Plus, Kenny Omega is super busy defending with Hangman Adam Page. And let's be honest, we all know what's going to happen. Kenny Omega's next feud is going to be when they break up, and it's going to be against Hangman Adam Page.
Exactly. He's going to turn on him, and he's going to join EC3 and FTR to take on the Elite. That's the whole story.
So then he's not feuding. So then he's not feuding with EC3.
No, because Hangman's not gonna be the one feuding, because he's not gonna be the one feuding with Kenny Omega. EC3 is gonna be the one feuding with Kenny Omega, because Hangman, he hasn't turned heel yet, and he could turn heel, but EC3 is gonna align himself with the Revival, with FTR. That's who he already aligned himself with on his promo videos in the Indies. And let's not forget the fact that Colt Cabana and EC3 are not gonna have that good of a match. Colt Cabana's a comedy wrestler. Kenny Omega and EC3 could have a 5-star match. Kenny would elevate EC3, and Colt Cabana would bring him down.
I mean, let's be honest. Just because Colt Cabana is a more comedic wrestler doesn't mean that every single fight he's in isn't going to be a great fight. He could very easily start going towards that more serious route, still have that funny aspect to him, and still have great fights. His last 2 fights with Brody Lee have been amazing fights, and he's not leaning heavily into the comedy. Just because he's a comedic wrestler doesn't mean he's not going to have great fights with EC3. And again, right now, Kenny Omega is feuding with FTR. It's tag teams. There's no room to add a third person in there with that.
Yes, there is. I'll tell you how. Because there is a group also called The Elite. It's called Kenny Omega and the Bucks. The Bucks are feuding with FTR right now. EC3 comes in, and he attacks Kenny Omega. You got EC3, FTR versus The Elite. Dynamite, book it. It could happen.
We've seen FTR and the Young Bucks together too much for a feud, though. We saw them they fought with each other at Fyter Fest against the Lucha Bros and Butcher and the Blade.
Against each other.
Yeah, but they're not feuding right now. So that makes no sense.
They're planting seeds. It goes back to what I just said earlier. They're planting seeds. The seeds are there. There's nothing with Colt Cabana. He's not a star. I mean, he's kind of a star, but he's not going to do what Kenny could do. Kenny would elevate EC3.
So why not elevate 2 wrestlers at the same time then? That just makes sense. And again, you're planting seeds. These seeds are going to take a while to grow. You can literally throw EC3 and Colt Cabana into Dynamite, which is happening right now, and it would make a lot of sense because EC3 is a free agent right now. It's not going to be on the market for that long. Let's get him on AEW right now. Mine, you can do it right now. Yours, you're going to have to wait for a couple feuds to happen.
What do you think would entice him more? Who do you think he would want to work with more, Kenny Omega or Colt Cabana? I guarantee you, if they gave him the Colt Cabana, he'd go to Impact.
I mean, let's be honest. He'd be happy to wrestle against anybody. I don't think that's going to be a huge, like, oh, you're going to make me fight Colt Cabana? No, I'm not doing that. Pretty sure that he's going to be happy to wrestle. He's not really going to...
5-star match with Kenny.
He could have a 5-star match with Colt Cabana.
I mean, in theory, he could, but what's the best chances? I mean, Kenny Omega's a proven star. Kenny Omega will make a star.
Colt Cabana is a rising star. He's a very underrated wrestler.
All right, Papa West. This is JB3 Strength. So you got 1 minute on the clock.
So again, why am I going to elevate 1 wrestler when I could elevate 2 wrestlers plus a huge storyline with the Dark Order? With Colt Cabana, you're like, no, I want to do my own thing because pretty much everyone who has hinted at joining the Dark Order has joined. So let's prove they're not this weird secret society who kidnaps people like everyone thinks. And you're saying that it's only happening on Dark. That's false. I've only been watching Dynamite for about 5 weeks now, and I've only been watching Dark for 2, and I've known about the Colt Cabana joining the Dark Order. That's been on Dynamite. It hasn't been just on Dark. It makes sense storyline. A lot of people aren't really happy with Colt Cabana going to the Dark Order because, again, Colt Cabana is a really eccentric fighter, which the Dark Order doesn't really let people do their own thing. It's all by the books. So let's get Colt Cabana out of the Dark Order where he belongs into a feud with EC3.
All right, JB3, 1 minute.
I'm gonna use my extra minute.
Okay. Let me pull 2 minutes when you start talking.
All right, look, Colt Cabana, he's great. He's not that big of a star. He's especially not as big as Kenny Omega. But the biggest reasons is, like I stated before, it has nothing to do with the fact that it could be a good story. Anything could be a good story. But when you're going to have someone come into a storyline, it is always nice to have already planted seeds. And with EC3 aligning himself with FTR outside before FTR even came to the AEW, that was already proven that they were together and that they could be together in any company. Now, there's a great story to tell. I mean, you got FTR and the Bucks that you say that they're feuding. Come on. If anybody knows wrestling, you know that they're going to be feuding. You got Kenny Omega and the Bucks, and you got FTR and you got Hangman. Now, yeah, right now, because obviously with things happening, that's going to be the feud to go. But EC3 would have been the perfect person to align with the Revival, and he could have turned, and the Revival or FTR could have turned on Page because they're already teasing that they're together. But the point is that the story has already been set. The foundation of the story has been already set. EC3's character, like I said, he needs a big name to elevate him. He was the one person to be absolutely buried and then be rising to the hottest level before coming into the hottest free agent. I mean, you know that. Everyone knows that. But with Colt Cabana, there's no seeds being planted. You're just going to throw him into a barely feud, a barely known feud, when you could put him in something that would make everyone watch Dynamite. If EC3 went to Dynamite and feuded with teaming with FTR and feuded against the Elite, I would watch that. Everyone would watch that. It'd be crazy. It would be great. And it just wouldn't have the same impact if Colt Cabana was the one that he was doing it with. It would have all the impact if it was Kenny.
Right. All right, so we have brought in our judges. This was a great run. I'm curious to see where the judges go when they're ready. We'll get this show on the road. All right, Mr. Raptor Master, who gets your point? Why?
I will give my point to JB3 because he put up some great examples of why Kenny Omega will be sort of a good feud with EC3 because he explained it during the argument was he was already a proven star, unlike Colt Cabana, and even when JB3 kind of talked down Jacob right here about Colt Cabana is more of a fine comedy wrestler. And there was no sort of seeds of the feud with EC3 that was might have the feud with yours with Kenny Omega. He was, like I said, proven star. He could potentially elevates the match if it were here and brings a more I try to say this. Bring more right here at the feud itself. So I will give my point to JB3.
I'm going to go in there and get a pair of those gloves we bought. And
all right. Mr. Carefree, how about you?
I actually given my point to Jacob. I felt the main flaw Jacob brought up the fact that Kenny Omega is already right now teaming with Hangman Page, and he's also doing a feud with another team right now. And even JB3 kind of said like he was already in another feud right now, and I feel like if you add in EC3, it's going to be too many people, too many feuds going at once. Whereas Jacob brought up the fact that Colt Cabana would be a great feud for introduction with EC3 in his match. They can both give 5-star match, and also just because he's a comedy wrestler doesn't mean that he can't put on a good match or good feud. So my point's going to Jacob.
All right, madam. Settle this one. Who gets the point?
Okay. Good thing I'm used to this by now because I always do decisions when it comes to matches. Okay, I'm giving my point to GB3 because he was able. I was actually this was really closer than what I expected it to be, but the conclusion when he stated that JB3 needs a big name to elevate him since he's actually buried in the WWE. That was really the turning point for me. So I'm giving the point to JB3.
All right, so JB3 takes a 2-1 lead. All right, so we're going to move on to our last prep question. If JB3 hits this, he will win. If Jacob gets it, we move on to the speed round, and I will give you the rules to the speed round when we get there. So we will go into question number 4, which is in Jacob or Papa's strength, and it comes in the realm of superstars. The question is, which superstar defines pro wrestling in the 70s? Papa, 90 seconds when you start talking.
So, contrary to popular belief, I am a very young man and was not alive during the 70s. But when I think of the 70s, and especially with wrestling, I think of eccentric characters, eccentric outfits, doing like crazy things, huge muscly guys. And really, the only person who fits that best is Hulk Hogan. I mean, would walk out. We've all seen the yellow T-shirt, the yellow muscle shirt that says Hulkamania. Would tear it off. I wanted to do that so many times. I ruined so many shirts from doing that. And my dad was like, he has them pre-cut already, so it's easier to do. Because I did accidentally hurt myself one time when I was a 10-year-old kid doing that. But when you think of old-style wrestling, you think of Hulk Hogan. One of the best men to ever lace the boots. And something interesting, too, I just found this out earlier. He didn't wrestle that much in the 70s. But what he started in the 70s was amazing. He started a feud with Andre the Giant, which culminated to one of the best wrestling matches ever against Andre the Giant. When I think of the 70s, I think of Hulk Hogan. When I think of Hulk Hogan, I think of the 70s.
Time. All right, JB3, 90 seconds.
All right, so who defines wrestling in the 70s? I don't think of big muscly men. I don't think of big crazy characters and eccentricism and all that stuff. I think of, when I think of that, I think of the 80s. When I think of the 70s, I think of one man. And out of all the wrestlers that wrestled in the 70s, out of every single one of them, there was one man who wrestled in the 70s and took the 70s with him to the 80s. And to the 90s, and to the 2000s, and pretty much almost 2010, about 2007 or 2008. And he always brought the 70s with him because the 70s wasn't about big muscly men. The 70s was about the territories. It was about working 7 days a week, twice on Sunday. It was about having 60-minute classics with Ricky Steamboat. Even though that didn't happen in the 70s, not much did happen in the 70s, but the 70s was inside of this person when he went to the 80s. And he established his whole career in the 70s. Everything that he was created in the 70s. And the person that I picked was the man, the nature boy, Ric Flair. He is the one who represents the 70s. It's inside of him. If you think of him, you think territories. And that's all you think about. Because Ric Flair is the man.
Time. All right, Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan. I think I've heard this before. 5 minutes, gentlemen. Fight it out.
All right, look, man, I don't know if this is going to be a long 5 minutes because I could just tell you now. uh, yeah, look. Hulk
Tell me.
Hogan debuted in 1977. He won a title recognized in 2 states, in only 2 states, on December 1st, 1979. His run in the WWE, the very beginning, with the big Andre match you were talking about, not the one from WrestleMania 3, the biggest match of all WWE history, probably. But no, you're talking about the one that was just there. He came in and worked as a heel and failed. He got fired when he first went to the WWE. He left. Okay, he might not have got. I don't know if he got fired, but he was not there anymore, and he had to go somewhere else until 1983 to come back. But dude, Hogan is an 80s wrestler. He's an 80s guy, and he barely even touched the 70s.
You're right. He did barely touch the 70s, but still, who defines wrestling in the 70s? I find it interesting that you say you don't think of eccentric characters or big muscly men. The $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, wrestled in the 70s. He was in the 70s also. Eccentric character.
Man into the 80s. I'm telling you.
Okay, whatever you say. Looking right here, where he was $1 Million Man, but okay. The Sheik, Andre the Giant, eccentric characters.
But they weren't.
Ric Flair was not an eccentric character until the late 80s, early 90s, when he became the Nature Boy.
No, that's not true. I'm sorry, but he debuted in 1972, and he won the Mid-Atlantic TV Championship in 1974. Then he had a plane crash, survived it, came back in 8 months. Then that's when he created the Nature Boy character. Okay, and I know it's controversial because you say Buddy Rogers really created it. He took it from him, but they had a feud, and Buddy Rogers gave him the honor. He is the one who started it, and it started in the 70s. He created the Nature Boy. No, he's thief. Hey, Buddy Rogers had a match with him, and he put him over. There's nothing you can say about that. You know, that you can't call him a thief if Buddy Rogers put him over with it and gave him the Nature Boy. Look, he's the Nature Boy. He built his legacy. He built a foundation in the 70s. He won the United States Championship in NWA in 77 and held it 5 times and feuded with Steamboat, Piper, Mr. Wrestling, Buddy Rogers, Greg Valentine, among others. And that was all in the 70s. That was Ric Flair in the 70s, creating the Nature Boy, having great feuds, and becoming a multi-time champion. What did Hulk Hogan do? Hulk Hogan is an 80s guy. He didn't become Hulk Hogan until 1983 when he was WrestleMania bound, when he won the WWF Championship. He was not anything to do with the 70s. He was barely there.
Yes, but here's the great thing. Hulk Hogan transcends time. Yes, he had a great career in the 80s. Not the best of careers in the 70s, but when I think of him, I think of 70s because he fits all the bullet points of 70s. When I think of Ric Flair, he's one of those, you can't tie Ric Flair down to a decade because Ric Flair is one of the greatest of all time. Most people don't remember.
You can't tie Hogan down to a decade. It's the 80s. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm saying, Ric Flair is one of the greatest of all time. You cannot tie him down to a decade because even in the 2010s, he was still having a fantastic career. You think of his crowning moments. We're not in the 70s. Hulk Hogan had a match with Andre the Giant. It ended up being one of the greatest matches ever.
Dude, you're trying that. No, WrestleMania 3 was one of the greatest matches ever. Come on, bro. Look, Ric Flair, he began the Nature Boy. Woo! In the 70s. Guess what he does now? He's the Nature Boy. Woo! He's the same. He didn't just go all those decades. He brought the 70s with him. He's the only one who represents the 70s. Hulk, I'm sorry, man. Hulk Hogan is not. He's an 80s guy. He's 80s.
Okay. Just because you watched him in the 80s doesn't make him an 80s guy.
He didn't wrestle in the 70s.
He did wrestle in the 70s. We've had this discussion already. He still did.
He debuted in 77. And that was in a territory. His first championship was a month away from the 80s, and it was only recognized in 2 states.
He still wrestled in the 70s. He had a really cool career. And when I think of him, I think of the 70s.
Time.
80s.
All right, JB3, 1 minute.
Look, man. I know. I know. It's just one of those things. Okay. Hulk Hogan. I don't know why he makes you think of the 70s. I honestly think you got your 70s and 80s mixed up. Nature Boy literally won multiple championships in the 70s. He created the Nature Boy character in the 70s, and he got the nod from Buddy Rogers in the 70s. He feuded with Steamboat Piper, Mr. Wrestling Buddy Rogers, Greg Valentine in the 70s. The only thing Hogan did in the 70s is win a title that hardly anybody knew about. He did not do anything special until the 1980s. When you want to say your prayers and eat your vitamins, I did that because I was a kid in the 80s, and Hulk Hogan ruled the 80s, not the 70s, bro. It's just the way it is. You know, Ric Flair. Ric Flair is the man, and to be the man, you got to beat the man, and Hulk Hogan would not beat the man in the 70s, not even close.
Time. All right, Papa, wrap up this round. This is do or die.
I mean, Hulk Hogan probably would have beaten the man if he got the chance, and he didn't get the chance. He had great promise at the very end of 1979. Unfortunately, he was not given the opportunity he deserved. Yes, he had a great 80s, but still, when I think of the 70s, I've said this so many times, when I think of the 70s, I think of Hulk Hogan. Why? Eccentric characters. I think of big muscly men, eccentric outfits. Who fits that to a T? Hulk Hogan. When I think of Ric Flair transcends time. Ric Flair is not just he was great in the 70s. He was great at this time. He was great all the time. So you can't tie him down to he was a 70s wrestler. Hulk Hogan's persona was 1970s. Yes, he had a better career in the 80s, but he wrestled like he was in the 70s.
Time. All right, so we have brought our judges back in. They're going to take a second, get their thoughts together. Mr. Chair, who gets your point and why?
This is actually really easy in my opinion. JB3, he gave just way more examples of why Ric Flair personified the 70s. All really Jacob said about Hulk Hogan was like, when I think of Hulk Hogan, I think of the 70s. And even then, I didn't believe Jacob when he said it, in my opinion. Like, he didn't give enough examples. He gave one match, maybe in the 70s. He said he had promise. And his only argument against Ric Flair is he transcends the decades. But, I mean, JB3 gave examples of why Ric Flair was in the 70s, like the plane crash, him doing the Nature Boy persona, his titles. And my points go to JB3. It was it was fun, entertaining fight though.
Thank you, Richard.
All right, Andrea, does JB3 win, or do we go over to the Raptor Master?
Okay, my point goes to congratulations. It goes to JB3 because he was according to my fellow judge, which is I also agree with. He was able to state a lot of Ric Flair's accomplishments in the span of the 80s, like having multiple championships. He wrestled multiple wrestlers. He even developed his character in the 70s. And when Jacob said that he transcends time, he also stated that Hulk Hogan transcends time too. So in a sense, they both transcended time, so it negates the argument. And he only said about eccentricity when it comes to the and putting that frame into the 70s, but other than that, he was able to give another solid argument as to, for example, the matches that Hogan had during the 70s, the significance of those matches. So I'm gonna give my point to JB3 on this one.
All right, Raptor Master, just out of curiosity, would you have agreed with your other judges?
Woo!
All right, and with that, and your winner, Moving on to 1-0, Mr. JB3. All right. Well, Mr. JB3, you called it. You said you were going to win, and you did.
Yeah. Look, I'll be honest. I really thought I was going to knock him out. I don't understand how I got the first question wrong. I give him props for arguing it well because, hey, he got the two judges. But, and another thing, Jacob, Papa West, Papa, all the belts, Papa 2 belts, Papa all the belts. You came in well. I commend you for the last question. There's no way. I didn't think we were going to even be able to have a full 3 rounds, but we did, and you still found a way to argue something. But all in all, it was a fun experience. I'm pretty sure if I debated Papa West in sports, I'd get my ass handed to me. But this is my area. This is my field, wrestling. This is what I do. I talk wrestling. I do it every Thursday night, some Monday nights even. I do it all the time, okay? I run a wrestling trivia league, Combat Wrestling Trivia. Check us out. I should know what I'm talking about, and I do know what I'm talking about. So there's nothing that anybody could take away from Papa West. He's just out of his element, really. This is my everything. Wrestling. I don't know if I'm going to compete again. I usually judge. I love judging. It's like something that's very, very fun for me to do. But I will think about it. And hey, 1-0. I mean, that's pretty good.
I don't know. I know you have a little feud with Nico. He is the champion of this league.
Yeah, it's true. He proved himself quite a few times in Chokeslam. I don't know about all that. I'm just a debut guy here. I'm just a beginner, We'll see what happens. But I can tell you one thing. If I ever did face Nico, you might have said it, Nico, but you might be the Chokeslam champion, but you would not kick my ass in that too. No. And you didn't kick my ass in CWT. You got lucky. Okay. So, if anything else, you keep doing your thing. I'll keep doing my thing. But you better realize, Nico, that if you ever cross my path in a trivia league, in a debate league, you will get your ass handed straight to you on a silver platter. I promise you.
Well, Mr. JB3, let's talk to our back again with our second place person. Papa West, you gave it your all. Are you disappointed? Are you okay with what happened? You're Papa 2 belts.
So, I did not join Chokeslam to get embarrassed. I definitely knew that I could do good in Chokeslam. I can do okay in this league. It's not going to be my best league ever. I probably will never take on Nico or whoever the champion is for this championship. Because a wise man once said, debate is 50% knowledge, 50% bullshit. And that is 100% incorrect. It's more like a 75-25 split because knowledge takes a lot to be good at debating. And I'm not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to wrestling. And as soon as I saw JB3 on here, I was like, this is going to be fun. Because I was not giving myself a huge chance. But I do have 2 mottos in my life. The first one's enjoy the little things. So everything I go into, I try to go in with the best attitude that I can. And then the third is never give up, never surrender. So as soon as JB3 was like, man, this would be a long 5 minutes. And immediately was like, and this is why. It's like, yeah, sweet. I have no chance for this. But you know what? I'm not going to give up. And I didn't. Because I never will.
Okay. Pulling from 2 totally opposite movies, but credit for the try. All right. Let's have a little talk with our judge. Right. So we have our judges with us. What did everybody think tonight? JB3 came out with a very strong statement to the league. Papa West definitely gave it his all. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it was a great effort from both of them. And it's gonna be really difficult for whoever JB3 faces next because he really knows his stuff.
No, I mean, it was a very good match. JB3 had some strong words. Him trying to maybe one day become champion, and that's someone who has faced Nico for the belt and lost barely in the last match. It was a great match, and I look forward to seeing what's his future matches. And Jacob also did a hell of a fight.
Same thoughts as both of you. I won't be surprised that JB3 might potentially get the belt from Nico. And to quote the Nature Boy himself, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And that's what JB3 did. Woo!
All right, so we're back with everybody. Let's start with our competitors. Mr. Papa West, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can follow me on Facebook at Jacob E. West. Yes, that is very important. And then all over TMG. We have TMG Entertainment, our debate stuff. I'm in all the leagues. I partake in all of them. I'm belted in one. I'm going for a belt in a second one. And then I'll be going for a belt in as many of the other ones as I can. I do also run late TV fights. So if you like yelling about stuff that is on television, hit me up. I will get you in a match. And then also at TMG Trivia, because yes, TMG has expanded into the trivia world. I help write questions and everything. I host and everything. But I also run mainly teams, TMG teams. So if you have a teammate that you want to fight with, or if you are looking for a teammate, there's an announcement post in there with call-outs. There are a lot of people looking for teams. I want to get that roster as full as we can.
All right, JB3, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Well, you can find me here at TMG Thursday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, as I do what I just did today, talk wrestling. We don't have too many arguments, but we all get along, we all know our stuff, and we all talk about good wrestling throughout the week. You can also find me over at Nerd Entertainment Network. I'm the commissioner and host for Combat Wrestling Trivia. If you want to compete, let me know. If you want to watch, give us a watch. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Give TMG a like and a subscribe. Go check out all of the trivia. TMG Trivia is coming out too. I'm ready to watch that. I don't compete in it, but I'm ready to watch. Yeah, you can find me over there and just make sure you jam that jam.
Jam that jam. That is right. And guess what, guys? Ladies first. Miss Andrea, where can people find you? Andrea, and where can people find you?
You can find me judging here on TMG Entertainment. You can also find me participating in TMG Trivia, specifically in TM Geek. So watch me there, and you can find me in all sorts of social media at Andrea Malabad.
All right, Raptor Master, where can people find you?
You can find me around TMG. As some supposing people don't know, I'm the head admin of Sports Brawl. I'm going to use the same model as Papa West. If you want to compete in a Sports Brawl, please contact me and we'll set up a future match. And also, you can find me around Twitter, Instagram at Jetpet1098, and I'm on Facebook at Jonathan Peck. So and that's pretty much it.
All right. How about you, Mr. Schwartz? Where can people find you?
I mean, you can find me basically anywhere there's trivia. I get around. I'm everywhere. You can't really prevent me from competing, judging, doing things. It's fun. You can find me on Facebook under Richard Schwartz, YouTube, and Twitter under External Void. And you can find me stuck at home in LA because you know what? Quarantine life. Hey, good for you. 2 thumbs up. Me, smiley face.
And I'm Matty G. You can find me at Facebook at Matt Graham. You can also find me right here on TMG Entertainment. I am the Game Zone Commissioner. If you like talking about games, whether they be video games or tabletop, Hey, we've even brought card games into it. Let me know. I am also over on TMG Trivia, the commissioner of the Singles League. So if you want to take a stab at movie trivia by yourself, reach out to me. Also, as you've heard Mr. JB3 say, also right here on Thursday nights, we do Suplex City Chats. It is about 5 or 6 of us. We sit around and talk about the biggest points in professional wrestling. What do you know? Also, Saturday nights, we do right here on TMG Entertainment, we do After Dark Takeovers. We have guests from all over the world coming out and talking with us. I don't know when this drops, so I can't really say who's going. Sorry, so for everybody at TMG Entertainment, don't forget,